The air is cool, the roads are muddy. And riding through the mire, on a horse, is a tall, dignified man of 57. His face is lined with years of war and worry. He is not a young man. He is, in fact, profoundly tired. He is leaving behind his beloved home, Mount Vernon, a place he had longed to return to after 8 brutal years of commanding the Continental Army. He had watched his stepchildren die, his marriage had weathered immense strain. He had wanted nothing more than to be a simple farmer, to live out his days as a private citizen. His name, of course, is George Washington. And he is on his way to New York City to become the first president of the United States. But think about this, he is riding to his own coronation, yet it feels more like a funeral procession. He wrote in his diary that his feelings as he left home were those of a culprit who is going to the place of his execution. This is not false modesty. This is the first mystery. Why would a man, hailed as a god by his countrymen, approach the highest office in the land with such dread? To understand, we have to rewind just a little. The year is 1783. The Revolutionary War is over. The Treaty of Paris is signed. The greatest military leader of the age, George Washington, does something unprecedented. He has an army behind him that is unpaid, angry, and armed. Many whisper that he should seize power, become a king, an American Caesar. It would be so easy. But in a scene of almost biblical significance, Washington gathers his officers at Fraunces Tavern in New York. He stands before them, his loyal companions in arms, and he says goodbye. He resigns his commission. He voluntarily surrenders his power to the Congress, a weak, bickering body. King George III, upon hearing this, supposedly remarked that if Washington did this, he would be the greatest man in the world. He was right. Washington becomes Cincinnatus, the Roman farmer who left his plow to save the Republic, and then returned to his plow. He goes home. He is done. But the Republic he left behind is not well. The 1780s are a dangerous, anxious time. The Articles of Confederation have created a nation that is less a united country and more a loose gathering of 13 squabbling siblings. They tax each other, they print their own money, they have their own armies. The economy is a shambles. The specter of anarchy looms. In 1786, a violent uprising of indebted farmers in Massachusetts, Shays' Rebellion, sends a shockwave through the elite. The revolution itself, it seems, is on the verge of collapse. Men like James Madison and Alexander Hamilton are terrified. They believe a stronger central government is the only answer. They engineer a grand convention in Philadelphia in 1787, supposedly to revise the Articles. But behind closed doors, with the windows nailed shut in the sweltering heat, they do something radical. They throw the Articles out entirely and create a new constitution. It is a secret coup, a bloodless revolution. And through it all, a presence looms over the proceedings. George Washington is there, presiding over the convention. His very presence lends it legitimacy. No one trusts a strong central government, they have just fought a war against one. But they trust George Washington. He is the only man who could unite the factions, the only man who could make the idea of a powerful executive, a president, palatable. The Constitution is written, but it is a piece of parchment. It needs a soul. So the Constitution is sent to the states for ratification. The debate is vicious. The nation splits into Federalists and Anti-Federalists. People take to the streets, newspapers are filled with furious arguments. In Virginia and New York, the ratifying conventions are knife-edge close. The central question, the one that terrifies everyone, is this: who will be the president? The office is designed, in many ways, for one man, and one man only. The entire structure rests on the assumption that the first president will be George Washington. If he refuses, if he chooses to remain at Mount Vernon, the entire experiment might fail. The Constitution could collapse before it even truly begins. And Washington does not want the job. He makes this painfully clear. He tells his friends, his confidants, that he longs for the walks of private life. He is tired. He feels he has already given his life to his country. He has no biological children to build a dynasty for. His health is failing. He writes to a friend, "It would be the greatest sacrifice of my personal feelings and wishes, that I could be called upon to make." But the letters pour into Mount Vernon. Hamilton writes. Madison writes. They paint a desperate picture. They argue that the Republican experiment, the very idea that a people can govern themselves, hinges on his acceptance. If he refuses, the forces of monarchy, of disunion, of chaos, will surely triumph. They are, in effect, drafting the greatest reluctant hero in history. This is the mystery of the silent months of 1788 and early 1789. While the nation waits with bated breath, Washington wrestles with his conscience in private. He is not a man of soaring speeches or easy confessions. We have to read between the lines of his letters, see the anguish in his pauses. He is a man being asked to surrender his happiness, his peace, his very self, for a second time, for a nation that might not even survive. Meanwhile, the election itself begins. It is nothing like our elections today. There are no political parties, not officially. There are no campaigns. It would be considered deeply unseemly, almost treasonous, for a candidate to so much as hint that he wants the job. The presidency must seek the man, not the man the presidency. The system is arcane. Each state chooses electors. In some states, the legislature chooses them. In others, they are elected by the people. These electors meet in their own states in early 1789. They each cast 2 votes for president. The rules state that the person with the most votes becomes president, and the runner-up becomes vice president. The assumption is that everyone will use one of their votes for Washington. The real intrigue is over who will be vice president, the man who will be second. The electors gather. In New York, there is a bitter fight between Hamilton and Governor Clinton, leading to New York failing to appoint any electors at all. The nation's first election, and one of its most powerful states, can't even participate. It's a chaotic, messy, profoundly human process. And while the electors vote, Washington is at Mount Vernon, waiting. He is not watching returns on a screen. He is waiting for a letter. He will not know he has been elected until an official messenger arrives to tell him. The weeks drag on. Finally, in April, the messenger arrives. He has traveled from New York, the temporary capital. The letter is from John Langdon, the president pro tempore of the Senate. Washington opens it with trembling hands, we can imagine. The news is official, he has been unanimously elected. Every single elector who voted had cast one of his ballots for George Washington. 69 votes. A perfect, unanimous score. It has never happened before, and it will never happen again. The people have spoken. The draft is complete. And Washington, the man who wanted only to be a farmer, has been summoned. He writes in his diary, with that heavy heart, that he will accept. He prepares to go to his execution. His journey from Mount Vernon to New York is the stuff of legend. It is a triumphal procession unlike anything America has ever seen. As he travels through Alexandria, Baltimore, Philadelphia, the crowds gather. They throw flowers. They build triumphal arches. Young women dressed in white sing odes to him. In Philadelphia, they have a carriage drawn by 6 white horses to escort him into the city. The man who craved privacy is surrounded by adoring multitudes. It is a living myth being created before their eyes. He finally crosses from New Jersey to New York by a specially constructed barge. The harbor is filled with ships flying every flag imaginable. As his barge approaches, a Spanish warship fires a salute. The crowds on the shore are so thick they look like a living wall. He arrives at the foot of Wall Street to the roar of cannons and the cheers of thousands. He is not just a man arriving, he is a symbol, a hope, an embodiment of the nation itself. But the mystery deepens. He is not greeted as a conquering hero, but as a necessary anchor. He is housed at a fine mansion on Cherry Street. And he immediately goes to work, not on policy, but on the most important, yet absurdly difficult task, defining what a president should even look like. Think about it. There was no template. How do you address him? Is it, Your Highness, Your Excellency, or just, Mr. President? The Senate and House get into furious, weeks-long debates over this. John Adams, the new vice president, argues for a grandiose title, something like, His Highness the President of the United States and Protector of their Liberties. He is mocked for it. It sounds too much like a king. Washington remains silent, but he understands the stakes. Every detail, from his title to the clothes he wears, to the number of dinner parties he attends, will set a precedent. It will determine whether this new office looks like a monarchy or a republic. And then, there is the inauguration itself. April 30, 1789. The balcony of Federal Hall in New York City. Another massive crowd is gathered below, filling the streets and the windows. Washington steps out. He is dressed in a simple, dark brown suit made of American broadcloth, a deliberate and powerful statement. He is not a king in silks and ermine, he is an American citizen. He is wearing American cloth. But he is also wearing a ceremonial sword at his side. He has not forgotten the military. And his hair is powdered, dressed in the old-fashioned style. He is a man of the past, stepping into an unknown future. The Chancellor of New York, Robert Livingston, administers the oath of office. A Bible is brought from a nearby Masonic lodge. It rests on a crimson cushion. Washington places his hand upon it. The crowd is so silent you could hear a pin drop. He repeats the oath, his voice low and solemn. At the end, he adds, with profound sincerity, "So help me God." Then he bows and kisses the Bible. Livingston turns to the crowd and shouts, "Long live George Washington, President of the United States." A flag is raised on the cupola. The crowd erupts in cheers, a sound that must have been deafening. Cannons roar from the battery. Washington then turns and goes back inside Federal Hall. He walks to the Senate chamber, where he is to give his first inaugural address. And here, we see the final piece of the mystery. He stands before the assembled Congress, his hands trembling, his face pale. He is visibly nervous, so much so that his voice is low and he has to hold the manuscript with both hands to steady it. This is not the calm, commanding general of the Revolution. This is a man utterly overwhelmed by the weight of the moment. His speech is not a celebration of power. It is a prayer. He speaks of the benign parent of the human race, asking for divine blessings on the American people, that they might be enabled to establish a government which should be, to the nation, an offering of peace. He does not talk about his own greatness. He talks about his own incapacity and reluctance. He warns of the dangers of local prejudices and party animosities. When he finishes, the room is silent for a long moment, heavy with emotion. Then, they all file out. The election of George Washington was not just a vote. It was a collective act of faith. A tired, reluctant man was drafted by his nation to embody an idea. He walked to the edge of a precipice, not sure if the republic would fly or fall. He did it not because he wanted to, but because he knew that the alternative, disunion, monarchy, chaos, was unthinkable. He stood on that balcony in New York, a solitary figure in brown broadcloth, holding a Bible, looking out at the sea of hopeful faces. He was a man of profound complexity and private anguish, carrying the hopes of a fragile, experimental nation. He was the answer to the mystery of whether a people could govern themselves. And for that one, shining, uncertain moment, in the spring of 1789, the answer, against all odds, seemed to be yes. Friends, if you are interested in the true history of the United States without embellishment, subscribe to the Empire of Freedom channel. Click on the bell so you don't miss anything.